This video is in collaboration with Merc. I'm sure most of you are already familiar with their channel, but if you aren't, be sure to check out their content. Between our two channels, we are covering 6 cases. Alexandria from Merc is narrating the 3 cases I covered here on my channel, and I narrated the 3 cases they covered on theirs. Be sure to click the link in the description to watch the other half of this collaboration.
Peter McColl. August 28, 1995 was the Monday before the first day of school for Peter McColl. The 16-year-old was going into his junior year at Berkeley High School, where he was an honors student and a member of the varsity crew team. Peter loved music and reading on a wide variety of topics, from astrophysics to poetry. Peter's mother, Susan, had asked him to go to breakfast with her at Fat Apple's restaurant, a local establishment in Berkeley, California, but he had turned down the invitation. Around 9 a.m. that morning, he told his younger brother Joseph that he was going to take a bus to Cody's Books, a bookstore on Telegraph Avenue, and he left the house. He never came home. When Peter had not returned by 11:30 that night, his family reported him missing. Missing flyers with Peter's picture soon were up all over Berkeley, and Peter's friends and family had canvassed the city streets. On the Saturday following his disappearance, more than 100 volunteers searched the various parks in the East Bay Hills. The most promising clue came from a bus driver who said he saw Peter board his number 43 bus the morning he went missing. He claimed that Peter asked him for directions to Montclair and for the time. The bus driver saw him speaking to a young woman with red streaked hair. Peter got off the bus in downtown Berkeley to transfer to the number 51 bus to get to Montclair. The young woman stayed on the bus. Peter's family is unaware of any reason he may have had for wanting to go to Montclair. The bus driver also claimed that he'd seen Peter later that day in Montclair while he was on his lunch break. Peter was with a young man who was clean-cut and had an English accent. Peter approached the bus driver to ask for change. Peter's older sister, Rebecca, is slightly skeptical of this second sighting. Rebecca and her father were able to confirm at least one detail of the bus driver's account of his first interaction with Peter, the identity of the girl with the red streaked hair. She turned out to be a teenager named Nicole, who coincidentally also went missing that day. However, she turned up after 3 days, having run off to Southern California with a boyfriend. Nicole and Peter both attended Berkeley High and had spoken briefly on the bus because they had recognized each other from school. They were acquaintances and not friends, and only spoke briefly, so Nicole had no information on where Peter was going. A cab driver came forward, claiming to have driven Peter to the Oakland airport with a teenage girl. Peter's family extensively searched flight records to see if Peter had boarded a plane that day. They could not find any indication that he had, so this tip is generally considered to be a misidentification. 2 sightings of Peter place him still in Berkeley later that day. An employee at a Goodwill in downtown Berkeley believes Peter was in the store that day and purchased a shirt. The employee recognized Peter because he had shopped in the store before. 2 girls who went to school with Peter were sitting at a bus stop around 4 p.m. and believed they saw him sitting in the back of a passing number 43 bus. This would have been the line that Peter needed to take home, but he was past the stop he needed to get off at in order to get there. Several religious groups had been recruiting around the campus of the University of California, Berkeley, where Peter's father was a professor of environmental studies in 1995. According to Peter's family, he loved to read about and discuss topics such as philosophy and religion. He was known to stop and talk to and debate with people about their beliefs. Peter's family got in touch with several support groups for parents whose children had joined some of these groups. None of their research ever found any proof that Peter had left to join one of these communities. Peter did not seem prepared to leave for more than a few hours, as all he had with him were the clothes he was wearing. $100 in cash was found left behind in his desk. Peter had recently passed his driver's test, but his license had not come in the mail yet. It would not arrive at his house until a few weeks after his disappearance. If he had planned on running away, he may have needed cash and an ID to facilitate his travels. The mccoll family no longer lives in Berkeley. Peter's brother lives in San Diego, and his sister and parents live in Washington state. The family still actively investigates Peter's case, checking online databases, keeping in contact with the police in Berkeley, traveling to different states, and meeting with members of various religious groups Peter may have joined. While they have so far been unable to find their son, Peter's parents have used their experience to try to help others. They run a 3-bed respite foster care facility out of their home in an effort to help troubled teenagers like the ones they encountered while searching for Peter. Genelle Bradford. Genelle Bradford was a 17-year-old honors student at Wilkinsburg High School in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She was quiet but funny and social, but focused on her studies. She had a love for basketball and attended Bible study at a local church. Genelle's father had never been a part of her life, and she had lost her mother when she was just 5 years old. Her mother passed away from cardiac arrest following an asthma attack. Genelle was therefore raised by her maternal grandparents, with whom she was very close. On April 27, 1999, Genelle, who was just 2 weeks away from turning 18 and 2 months away from graduating high school, attended school as normal that day, and then headed on to her after-school job at the Wilkinsburg YWCA on Ross Avenue. She was seen walking home after her shift, but she never arrived there. Genelle has been classified by police as an endangered runaway, although there is little evidence supporting this classification other than the fact that she was a teenager when she went missing. Genelle had no history of getting into trouble, and she had a good relationship with her grandparents. Her friends did not believe that she would have left willingly, especially considering how excited she was for her senior prom. That event was fast approaching, and Genelle had made extensive plans for it. Genelle's behavior did begin to change prior to her disappearance, according to her grandmother. After Genelle went on visits to 2 colleges she was interested in attending, she was not as concerned with high school as she once had been. She missed assignments and did not spend as much time studying. If Genelle met someone at one of these schools who introduced her to negative influences, this could support the theory that she ran away. However, it is also possible that, like many high school seniors, Genelle simply stopped putting effort into high school, knowing it was almost over. As it stands, we do not have any proof that Genelle ran away, and the possibility that something happened to her on her walk home that night in April of 1999 still exists. In 2016, an age-progressed image was released to show what she might look at age 35. Her case remains open. Cleashindra Hall. 18-year-old high school senior Cleashindra Hall, who usually went by the nickname Clea, lived in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, with her family in May of 1994. The honor student at Watson Chapel High School was having a busy but happy month. She had just gone to her senior prom and was weeks away from graduation. She had been asked to give a speech at the commencement ceremony. Clea dreamed of being a pediatrician and had been accepted in the pre-med program at Tennessee State University in Nashville. Clea was also busy outside of her schooling. Clea had been awarded a summer internship at a pediatrician's office in Boston based on her academic achievements. To help cover the costs she would incur traveling to Boston, and to help pay for her college classes in the fall, Clea had wanted to work part-time. A friend of hers had a job doing clerical work for a local nonprofit that supported local in-home daycares. When she needed to leave the position, she had told Clea about it. The friend's employer was a man named Dr. Larry Amos. He ran his nonprofit out of an office in his home, which was only a few blocks away from where the Hall family lived. When Clea had told her parents about the position, they were open to her accepting it because it was in their neighborhood. They agreed to let Clea take the job as long as it did not interfere with her schoolwork or her obligations to their church. Since Clea did not have her own car, they also insisted that her mother drive her to and from work because they did not want her walking alone, especially when she was coming home in the evenings. On May 9th, as a senior, Clea was let out of school early. She had plans to go to work early since she had extra time, and hoped to earn a little extra money beyond her normal paycheck. Clea's mother, Laurel, drove her over to the Amos house as planned, but no one was there. They came back home and Clea took a nap. Just before 5 p.m., Clea's employer's wife called her and told her that she was home, so Laurel drove Clea back over. Laurel watched Clea go inside before she drove home. It would be the last time she saw her daughter. Laurel spoke with Clea on the phone that night around 8 p.m., but she was not finished with work or ready to be picked up. Laurel remained at home, waiting for a call from Clea asking for her ride home. Laurel fell asleep on the couch while waiting, just before 10 p.m. Clea's father returned home from work at approximately 12:45 a.m. on May 10th. He saw his wife sleeping on the couch, but did not wake her up until after he went into Clea's room and saw that she wasn't there. The Halls called Dr. Amos right away. Clea never worked past 10 p.m., and according to Dr. Amos, she had signed out on her timesheet at 8:30. The Halls waited up all night for Clea, hoping that perhaps she had gone to a party in her first real move of serious teenage rebellion. When she was not home by morning, they called police. The police told the Halls that they would have to wait until Clea had been missing for 24 hours before they would take a missing persons report. The report was finally taken at 5 p.m. on May 10th. According to Laurel Hall, the police in Pine Bluff were not quick to investigate the case, even after they finally took the report. For the first few days after Clea disappeared, they assumed she had simply run away. The Hall family, however, knew that Clea would not have done such a thing. The Hall family therefore launched their own efforts to find Clea. They, along with their church community, began their own searches of the area on May 10th, starting with the search of the wooded areas near the Amos home. The Hall family also covered their neighborhood in missing persons flyers with Clea's picture and bows made out of pink ribbon. However, many of them disappeared. At first, the family thought that the utility company may have removed them because they did not want the flyers on the utility poles. They later learned that they had been removed by local teenagers. The teenagers had taken down the missing persons flyers and bows Clea's family had put up around the neighborhood because they had been paid to do so by Dr. Larry Amos, Clea's employer. Dr. Amos is considered a person of interest in Clea's case, due mainly to the fact that he was the last known person to see her. While Clea's mother, Laurel, has not accused him of being involved in Clea's disappearance, she believes Dr. Amos has not done enough to eliminate himself as a suspect. She is concerned by the fact that he will not take a polygraph, and his overall lack of cooperation in the investigation is alarming. He gave a brief statement after Clea went missing, but that has been the extent of his involvement in the search for Clea. He had left for an out-of-state business trip on May 10th, and therefore had not been available to give a statement to the police until the Saturday after Clea vanished. In addition to paying teenagers to remove flyers for Clea, Dr. Amos also removed some of these flyers himself. Clea's father, Willie, witnessed him doing so. Dr. Amos has given different accounts of the last time he saw Clea over the years. Her timesheet shows that she signed out of work at 8:30. In one statement, he says he did not see her leave, but heard her go out the garage. In another statement, he says he saw her as she left the house, with a can of peach pop in her hand. In both of these stories, Clea left without informing Dr. Amos that she had completed her work for the day, which was not her normal routine. Dr. Amos's wife, Patricia, would admit to police that this was odd. Dr. Amos originally agreed to allow police to search his home. However, he got into a disagreement with the detective when the police showed up to conduct the search and rescinded his consent. Since the police did not have enough evidence to get a search warrant, they ended up with nothing more than the cursory glance around part of the home that they got when they first arrived there. The Amos home would not be fully searched until 2012. Two individuals who had done work inside the home over the years came forward, saying they had seen suspicious things inside the home. One claimed to have seen blood spatter on some insulation, and the other claimed that there was a spot in the home that gave off a terrible smell and had flies swarming around it. These statements were enough for a judge to grant a search warrant for Dr. Amos's home. On March 29, 2012, police spent approximately 6 hours searching the property. During the search, Dr. Amos told authorities that he had 8 sets of renovations performed on the home in the time since Clea went missing. Given the extensive amount of work that had been done on the home and the passage of 18 years, the odds of finding useful evidence were slim. However, the Pine Bluff Police Department did find some items that were potential pieces of evidence and would require forensic testing, and removed them from the home. Those items were not submitted to the crime lab for 40 days after they were collected, however. After a month of not hearing anything about the evidence, Laurel Hall went to a city council meeting, asking the council to put pressure on the police department to examine the evidence. She was assured by the police chief that the evidence was being checked on with the crime lab weekly. However, the same day after the council meeting, the Arkansas State Crime Lab released a statement saying they had never received evidence from the search. A Pine Bluff Police Department crime scene technician would later admit that she had forgotten to submit the evidence to the crime lab. She was suspended without pay as a result. When the evidence finally was tested, it did not reveal any signs of blood or anything else useful to the investigation. In the 25 years since Clea went missing, her family has remained active, both in searching for her and in commemorating dates such as her birthday and the anniversary of her disappearance. Laurel Hall has given numerous media interviews over the years in hopes of reaching someone who may have information about the case. Clea is now an aunt, and her 3 nieces all have a portion of her name in theirs. Her nieces and nephew all take part in the various events and remembrances the Halls still hold for Clea every year. Every May 9th, the family holds a balloon release. This event is not just an act of remembrance, however, it is also an attempt to spread information. A card with information about Clea and her case is attached to each balloon. My husband and I will not stop looking until we have taken our last breath, Laurel Hall promised in 2019.